All right, guys, we've waited 13 years to see a new Avatar movie, and does it live up to the hype? Is it better than the original? It just might be. So yeah, guys, Avatar: The Way of Water has been, so long. It's been so long since the original. I wasn't even sure for the last couple of decades if people were even still into Avatar, but once the trailer started dropping, once this actually started becoming a real tangible film and not just something we had to keep hearing about over the last decade, I actually feel like people were starting to get excited for it. And we'll see how the box office is for it and how many people turn out for it, because as a sequel to the highest grossing film of all time, that's going to be a hard thing to overcome. And my quick thoughts on the original film is that I like the first film. I don't love it. I think it's got a lot of problems, but I understand from a technical aspect it still holds up. I saw it when I took my California trip. I saw it in an IMAX out in California, and it was gorgeous, still gorgeous. It I think they might have up some of the VFX, a little bit, upgraded to like 4K, but, still looks stunning. A lot of slow stuff though, but, I get the comparisons to Pocahontas in space and Dances with Wolves in space, and it is that, but on its own, it is still quite the achievement, and I don't hate it, but I'm not overhyped like a lot of people are. So with this film, was it going to just be a rehash of the original? And I'm kind of happy to say it's not a complete rehash. There's a few little elements that are kind of rehashed, but we won't really spoil too much of that. But essentially, so the story for this new film, and I know the trailers didn't do a great job of telling us all what's happening. What is this the new story? What's the point? But essentially, Jake Sully, and it's like about a decade or so past the original film, after the original, the humans that left Earth have come back, and Jake Sully and his family have to get out of Dodge. They have to move. They have to, get away from what's going on, and I won't say why they have to. So they end up kind of seeking refuge with this water tribe, or this reef tribe, which is really interesting, seeing like a different style of the Na'vi people. They're a little more like greenish in hue, and they definitely got some more unique features, which I think is really cool, because since they live on the water, some of their features, like their tails, their hands, are a little more adapt to that environment. So when they come in, it's almost a literal fish out of water story, and they have to kind of relearn a new culture, learn kind of how that way works, the way of water, if you will. How does that all work? So that's kind of the point of the movie. But you definitely have some characters return from their first movie, which I'm a little surprised they found a way to bring Stephen Lang back. That's not really a spoiler. I think they kind of show him in one of the trailers. So, bringing him back, I was like, how do you do this? How do you bring him back after what happened to him in the first movie? And they explained it away, and I wasn't mad about it. I was kind of like, oh, isn't that kind of convenient? But hey, it is what it is. He is a great presence, and I think he is a good villain in the film. But as far as like the family dynamic, so it is weird because the first movie was pretty much all Sam Worthington as Jake Sully. It was his movie, and then Zoe Saldana, who plays Natiri, it was kind of their fun love bond, and them kind of navigating through their two different lifestyles. But Jake Sully was a human put into an avatar body to become part of the Na'vi. She was a native Na'vi. So then you get their kids, and it's mainly focused on their kids, which I think is interesting. And Sigourney Weaver comes back as a new Avatar character, and they kind of sort of give a lot of hints to her character. They don't really give a whole lot of answers, but they give some hints as to why Sigourney Weaver's kind of this kid. Yeah, don't want to spoil. There's a lot to this movie. This guy, it's 3 hours long. And what works is there's a lot more action in this, which I thought was great. It definitely kept the pacing going for the beginning of the movie. I was into it. It was off to a great start. It was just bam, 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 like stuff. Kind of little exposition here and there, gorgeous scenery, and you're just moving along. It was moving at a great pace up until about the last 45 minutes, which we'll get into later. But so great action. I think Cameron really upped that game there. The effects and everything are still incredible. There are just scenes where you have to sit there and look at all these fish and being underwater, and you're like, this is all computer generated. This is all effects, and it looks so real, so lifelike, and it's it's mind-blowing from that aspect of things. And it is, I had to stop myself a few times because I was just so overwhelmed by just the visuals and just that oversensory. I was just blown away, and that part is really good. I'll give Avatar that all day long. Is that it is an achievement in that department. For the most part, the acting is pretty solid. There's a few characters here and there because there's a lot of characters in this. For the most part, the acting is pretty on par with the first. I think Zoe Saldana is actually your standout in this. She still acts the crap out of that character, but she doesn't get enough for me to really rave about her. But I think whenever she's on screen, I'm like, all right, yeah, I totally buy into this character. She is the most authentic looking out of all of them, and I just buy more into her character overall. And then you get Stephen Lang, who comes in. He chews up his scenery. He's pretty good. Sam Worthington, same as the first. I won't say he's wooden, but I do feel like that because of having the kids and focusing on the kids, a lot of the original characters get kind of put in the back seat for a little bit, and you don't really get to focus. And I don't think they get to stretch their chops a little more like I would want. I wanted to see a little more development out of Jake Sully. It's more... you only see him developed in a way because he's teaching his kids lessons and stuff, and it's mainly from the kids' point of view. So I was a little disappointed with that. I wanted to see his character grow because I think in the first movie he was pretty much a wooden board, and this one, he got a little bit more, but not enough for me to really glow about it. So acting is pretty good. And so my big issue with this film is that runtime, and for about 2.5 hours of this, I was actually like, I don't feel it. There are some movies that come along that are 3 hours long, the Batman, that just feel like the editing, the pacing, everything, even though it's 3 hours long and it seems daunting, that it just goes. And you don't feel it. Wolf of Wall Street was the same way for me. 3 hours, and I didn't feel it. This one, I swear, I got to about 2.5 hours, and then it hits you. And you're getting into that final act of the film, and it does kind of slow down. While it is a big, incredible action sequence and this big set piece finale, it does slow down. That's where I finally felt it. It finally caught up to it. And it felt almost Lord of the Rings-esque, where I was like, okay, we could probably end it here. And then it kept going for another 20, 30 minutes. I was like, okay, well, maybe you could end it here. And then it kept going. So, it is what it is. But, I came out of this thinking this was, from beginning to end, a better Avatar movie than the original. I just, I liked the first Avatar, didn't love it. This one, it's borderline almost a top 10 movie of the year for me. It may or may not quite get there. I'm definitely going to go see this again this weekend. But if you didn't like the original Avatar movie, this may not be for you. But I do think there is some elements to this where if a lot of stuff bugged you about that first one, I think it redeems a lot of those in the second one. And it makes it more interesting. And since you already kind of got that world built for you, this just takes that baton and it goes off in some interesting new directions, some similar directions. And, I think it'll actually appease some people who didn't like the first one. And if you love the first Avatar, I believe you will like this one even more. Because, it is a little bit more of the same. Because there is a scene where, now the kids have to learn to ride the little water dragon creature things, and it's like, okay, so they're kind of rehashing that from the first movie, but in context of this film, I get why they did it. So on the whole, guys, highly recommend. It was worth the wait. It's a spectacle, and be sure to drink your soda. Maybe wait a half hour to an hour into the movie before you start drinking your soda, because it's a long one and you might have to pee in the middle of it, and I don't think you want to get up and miss any, because there's a lot of visual greatness in here. But I will say also, it does meander in the middle. There is a big chunk of this film where I'm like, why couldn't we lose some of this? You've made your point, and there's some stuff I was like, the characters have learned some important stuff here, but why are we still going back to some stuff and meandering here in the water? And hey, whatever. James Cameron is one of the best filmmakers in the world for a reason. His Avatar movies make billions and billions of dollars for a reason, so who am I to argue with that man? But in the end, I am going to give this a very high B+. It, does so much right. I think it has room for on repeat viewings to maybe let me, not lax up, but let me see it in a little bit of a different way. Because when you see it a second time, maybe some stuff you had issues with get cleared up. Because now you've seen the whole thing, and early on, like, okay, this is going to lead to that, and you connect dots that way, and it might improve it for me there. So we'll see if that improves by the time my top 10 list comes out. But again, highly recommend. Go out and see this, guys, in a theater like you should with any movie. Go see it in a theater. And don't be, real quick before we get out of here, and before you guys hit that like, subscription, and bell notification button, and leave a comment, please do not be that person. I get it. It's a 3-hour movie, and not a lot of people are accustomed to 3-hour movies. Please stay off your cell phone. I literally sat next to a couple of guys who took 3 phone calls between the two of them during the movie. One guy kept pulling his phone out every 5 minutes. I get it, guys. We're accustomed to watching movies at home, but you're in a theater. Be respectful of the people around you, please. It took every ounce of my being to not grab that guy's phone and throw it onto the floor. So don't be me, and don't be them. So until the next review, guys, I'll be seeing you.